Getting started with WordPress 4, Custom CSS, and child themes. In our previous videos, we have discussed adding themes, pages, posts, plugins, widgets, and menus. In this video, we will discuss the steps for making modifications to your theme through either your child theme or the customization feature in WordPress. I am operating under the assumption that you have familiarity with CSS. I have a video series on my channel called Getting Started with HTML and CSS. You will benefit from watching those two videos to get the gist of coding with CSS and understanding HTML code, which is necessary before you can attempt to edit existing CSS code. If you are not interested in coding with CSS, then you should skip this video and go to part 5 in this series. Also in the previous videos, we were going back and forth between various themes. Let's just work off the 2020 theme for this video, but you are free to choose another theme if you want. Why create a child theme? Child themes provide a way to customize the look and feel of your website by editing the code without making the edits directly on the parent WordPress files. The benefits of a child theme are: 1. You can add custom CSS, PHP, and JavaScript code to your website. 2. You can use your code to override CSS code from the parent theme. Warning: keep in mind that whenever you update WordPress, a plugin, or a parent theme, any edits you make directly to the files will be lost. You also do not want to keep your plugins, themes, and WordPress core at an old version, since the updates are usually being made to improve the security and functionality by removing bugs and applying patches, among many other things. So creating a child theme allows you to make edits that will continue perpetually. So this is my WordPress website. I'm using the 2020 theme. I just have a lot of random content on the page, and I wasn't concerned about making it look pretty. So the first thing I want to do is show you where you can find the style.css page for the 2020 theme. So let's go to our dashboard. Let's hover our mouse over Appearance and click Theme Editor. And this is the style sheet. And you'll see the different selectors and the properties and values that are in play. And if you really wanted to, you could start making edits right here. So for instance, if you don't like this font, this background color, we could change it to something else. And then go to the bottom and click the Update button. The only problem with making edits to this page is that as soon as WordPress creates a new version of the 2020 theme with a security update, and you go to Dashboard, Updates, as soon as the 2020 theme needs to be updated, you're going to lose all of the edits that you made to the theme editor. So you don't want to make any edits here or on any of these pages on the right hand side of the page. You want to create a child theme instead. Alternatively, if you're only interested in editing the CSS, then you can go to Appearance, Customize, and use the customization feature. So go to Additional CSS, and we can add Custom CSS here to overwrite the CSS that's in existence or to add new code. So let's go to another page that has a lot of content. Let's change the headers. So you remember H1 is your level 1 heading. Let's change the background color. This is one really good reason to use the additional CSS feature, is that it helps you fill in your code for you. So let's change the background color to black. Hashtag 6 zeros and a semicolon. Obviously there's no figure ground contrast between the background and the text, so let's change the text color to white. Six Fs. That looks pretty good. If we want to affect the second level heading in the same way, we can just type in a comma H2. So that looks pretty cool. Let's look at some of the other pages to see how it looks. Now let's click the About page. This is my blog index page, and we have an unforeseen consequence of affecting our headers. The blog post titles are not showing up, so I can tell you right now it's an H2. So if you're wondering, okay, how do I change this font to make it white? Here's what you want to do. You can either go back to the theme editor, or we could just take a shortcut. Right click the item that we want to inspect the code, and then go down to inspect queue and click it. On the left hand side of the page you see the HTML code that's in play for the page, and on the right hand side of the page you see the CSS tags. And if you right click in a particular item on the page and click inspect queue, it's going to take you directly to that item. So we see something called entry title. That's what particular class is in use, so we can try styling that as well. Let me put the h2 back as black, with that as white with the black background. Now let me add a entry title. I'm putting a period in front because that's a div tag. I can tell because over here in the CSS you see a period in front, so it's not just a span tag. The curly brackets, and I'm going to change just the color. I'm going to make that white. And that didn't work. So the problem with WordPress is that so many different styles, so many different classes are affecting different items that you can't just change one thing sometimes. Sometimes you have to change multiple different styles. So let me look through my CSS scripts. Well, they're not scripts, so let me look through my CSS coding and see what else is in effect. So body, I'm not going to affect the body. Entry title, and it says A, so the entry title is link. Let me change that. So entry title is something I needed to change, and also A. Luckily that didn't affect every single A, which is a link. Luckily that didn't affect every link on the page because it has entry title in front of it, so I'm just saying this particular link is going to be white. So you really have to do a lot of exploration when you want to change things with CSS code. So what other changes can I make? This is also another unforeseen circumstance. I didn't necessarily want this to have its color changed. So that's called the site title. Let's see if we can change that back. Let's change the color of the font to black. So simply changing the entry titles and the headers ended up affecting something I didn't want affected. And we're just going to have to explore how some changes we make to the CSS code affects different things on the page. You're just going to have to experiment and see what you can change and what you can't change. One thing I can change is this background color, but it's not going to change in the way I expect it to change. So for instance, if I type in body, I need to use the curly brackets, not parentheses. Background color, I'm experimenting with this feature a lot. Well, I can do it this way. This is the footer region, and this is the header region, so it's not going to be affected by the body background color. So that's one option I have, but you don't have to do everything with coding. Let me click publish to save my changes. So if there's any changes that you make to the CSS, you have to click publish, otherwise you're going to lose it as soon as you leave. So let's go back to, customize. And let's look through the different options that I have in play. So if I want to change the background color, I can go to colors, change the background color here. So you don't have to do everything with CSS code. So you don't want to over rely on it. WordPress does a attempt to make things a little bit easier for you. Let's go to a different page. So that's one way to change the background color. If I want to change the header and footer background colors, I can do it here. That's not really aesthetically pleasing, but that's besides the point. If I want to give myself a wallpaper, background image is one option. I can use this Marshall lamp, choose the image. Right now the background is just a stationary image. If you don't want it to experiment with these different options under image size. So scroll with image is basically allowing you to scroll down the page and the image is going to basically stop as soon as the full height is reached of the image. So if you had an image that's maybe like 1,000 pixels high and your page scrolls down forever for maybe 2,000 pixels, the image is going to cut off. But if you want the image to repeat, you can just click this checkbox for repeat the background image, and it'll just keep repeating infinitely until you reach the bottom of the page. If you don't want your image to repeat, unclick that, and then you can see the background color, and you'll just see the image for a short period of time. If you just want the image to just stay stationary and it isn't affected by how you scroll, unclick scroll with page. So you have a lot of different options for how the image is going to appear on your page. So if your image isn't big enough, you could just choose fill screen, and that'll make the image look a lot bigger. So anyways, I don't actually want a background image because it kind of hurts the figure-ground contrast. Or I could just go back to my HTML, or I could just go back and edit the CSS to make the paragraphs have a background color, but that's not going to look really good. I'm not a big fan of that. I would rather just not have a background image. So I'll just remove it. Go back to my CSS and remove this. So I think you get the gist of how you can edit your CSS by just using the CSS customization feature. Okay, so we're back in our home page. And from this point forward, we're going to start working with creating a child theme to go along with our 2020 theme. So the first thing we need to do is to go to our C drive, go to WAMP64, go to our www folder, and to our WordPress folder. If you didn't call it WordPress, then look for whatever folder name that you use for your WordPress site. If you're using XAMPP, then you'll just have to go to the appropriate directory for that. It's going to be in the htdocs folder. Next, you want to open the wp-content folder, go to themes, and we'll see our 2020 theme here. If you don't want to work with 2020, just find the name of the folder for the theme that you want to edit. It could be this surplus-education, and you're going to basically use that name. So right click, create a new folder. I'm calling it 2020-child. Like I said earlier, if you want to use like surplus education, use the same name and then just put -child at the end of it. Now in here we need to create two files. One is functions.php and the other is going to be style.css. So I'm opening up Notepad. clicking File, Save As, and I'm going to just, well, it already took me to the directory that I needed. You might have to navigate to your folder. First, I'm going to type in style CSS. Make sure you save as type all files and click Save. Now I'm going to click again, File, Save As. I'm going to call it functions.php. All files, save. So that created the PHP scripting file I need, and it created the style sheet that I need. Now in functions.php, you have to add some code to basically tell WordPress, look, before you start working with the child theme, queue up the parent theme and use all of the style sheets there, all of the PHP pages and coding and whatever. So the code that you want to type is this. You have a lesson symbol, a question mark, PHP. This is just a common way that you start scripting with PHP, and the closing is going to be a question mark and a greater than sign. And then everything in between is the code where you're queuing up the parent theme before you start working with the child theme. You're just going to have to read what's on the screen and type it out as best you can. Or I can just send you to a link that'll take you directly to the code. You can find tutorials on creating child themes in a lot of different places. So I'll put a link in the description of the video if you want to take a shortcut and just copy and paste the code. So I'm going to click File and Save. I'm going to close that, and then my style, open with Notepad. There's a lot of specific stuff that I need to have on my style sheet. I'm going to just show you a shortcut. I've already typed it all out. You need to have / and then an asterisk. And then at the bottom you need to have another asterisk and another /. In between that, on different lines, you need to have the following information. You need to have theme name, and then you need to type 2020-child, or whatever the name of the theme you just created, the same name as what you used in the folder. Description is optional. You don't have to have a description, but I recommend saying it's based on the 2020 theme. Author, that's optional. Give yourself credit. Template, 2020, you have to have the template. Version is optional, but I recommend giving yourself a version. And text domain is not optional. You need to have this as well. So 2020-child. The theme name and the text domain, keep that the same. The template is the name of the parent theme, the way it appears in the folders. So 2020, 2019, surplus education, whatever theme you're using, make sure it appears that way under template. Then from there you can just basically start adding your CSS code. So let's make the body have a background color. Let's just make it pink. Why not? And then our curly brackets. File, save. And if I refresh the page now, it's not going to do anything. I need to change my theme from the parent theme to the child theme. So go to Appearance, Themes. My child theme should be in here. Actually, the problem is that I'm not in the right place. I need to copy and paste that into here, save it, refresh it, and here's my child theme. See, I already created a copy of my child theme just to save time so I didn't have to type out all of the code on the screen. So let me click Activate. Let me go to my site. As you can see, all of the custom code that I added using the theme customization feature is gone. The only thing new that you see is the background color is pink. So if I go to customize, additional CSS, I could add my CSS code here, but the CSS code that I added for the parent theme is gone. It doesn't carry over. So what I would want to do if I want to reclaim all of my old CSS is go back to customize. Let's change the theme back to 2020. Click live preview. Go to additional CSS. Copy all of this. Change it back to, where's my child? Live preview. Publish. Okay. Style sheet. Paste my code, save it, refresh my page. Wait a second, let me get out of this preview. My header should have changed, so let me figure out what's going on. So anyways, I can further make customizations by going to colors and changing the background color here if I don't want pink. This is going to override the style sheet. So I think you get the gist of it. Now, if you're wondering, okay, well, you showed us how to make changes to the existing styles that are in place. What if I want to add some custom styles to a page? So if you watch the HTML and CSS tutorials that I put up, I had a region of the page where part of the page had a different background color from the rest of the page. So let's click edit page. Let's click these three dots in the top right corner for my options, and let's go to code editor. If you want to add custom div tags in here to just affect this one page, what I could do is, well, I'll just create something right here in a neutral space. Div class equals, let's call it main, and let's have my closing div tag. And let's just have some text that says something like hello world. Now let's update it. Let's see what the page looks like in a new tab. So here's my paragraph where it says hello world that I just added. Now let's add some code for main. Give it a background color. Let's make it orange. That's a 0, not an O. Save, refresh. That worked. Let's go back to the edit page. Actually, no, not here. Now, if I wanted this main region to affect multiple sections, I don't want to have the closing div tag here. I want to have it here. So it's going to affect this region, and I'm going to tell you right now that this is not going to work. Let's click update. Now let's click the refresh button. And as you can see, this header and this paragraph didn't turn orange. And the div tag was moved from here to here. When I'm using the different blocks in WordPress, you can't just surround several different blocks with a div tag. Instead, what I would have to do is add div tags for every single block manually. So this isn't the most efficient thing in the world. It's kind of a weakness of WordPress, if you ask me. Let's click update. Refresh our page. So if I want to have these paragraphs as with this main div tag, which has the orange background color, I'm going to have to go back into the block and add my div tag and my closing div tag everywhere I want it to appear. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, to add custom code if you're using the block editors to build your pages. But nevertheless, that's how you do it. So I think you get the general idea of how you can add custom CSS code to a page in WordPress and how to make global changes as well. So I want to thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.